credit card debt. With many Americans claiming to be crushed by capitalism, punching the clock day in and day out till they literally punch the clock, well, many still wonder why they're falling so far behind. What was once called keeping up with the Joneses is now the same feeling, but in a different twist. Keeping up with the Joneses today looks like paying your bills on time, having a fully stocked refrigerator, and just the right dosage of mental health prescriptions, leaving some with no other choice but to rack up record levels of debt, simply to scrape by. In America, debt is that devil sitting on your shoulder with every turn you make, with outrageous percentages, and commas so low in the negatives that it can make a grown man cry, and often does. Well, today we're going to dig deep into this ongoing problem, and here's some different perspectives on the matter. If you personally feel like you relate to anything in this video, or you just simply like content like this, don't forget to like, comment your thoughts, opinions below, and subscribe to see my daily uploads that I post every day around 12 p.m. Central Time. Also, I want to give a big exclusive shout out to my Patreon supporters, and feel free to go check me out on there if you want to personally help out the page a little bit harder. If you want to check out what's popping over on Patreon, you can check out the link in the description, and I definitely appreciate you guys showing some extra support over here on the channel. It really provides me more access to put some more focus into these videos and pump out more content for you guys. Now let's begin the video.
Why do you have a Netflix subscription when you have $8,000 in high interest debt?
You know, I listened to this guy, and I canceled my Netflix. I saved that for an entire year, took that money down to the credit card shop, and I said, here is my year's worth of joy. I'd like to pay off my credit card, please. And they said, sir, this is $200.
All right, so we're starting this off with some laughs here. Although, to be honest, this really isn't oh so funny because super relatable to a lot of different Americans. If you want to get by, if you want to save up some money, stop any enjoyment in your life and just suffer and just pretty much just survive for the next year. Which, it's true. It's a really good way to get ahead. Sorry, I'm just getting over a little bit of a sickness. But it's like, it really doesn't even add up that much with everything else being so much now.
Every day see these articles that say the consumer is strong, the consumer is strong, the consumer is drowning in debt. Yes, they are still spending, but people are now financing their groceries.
Think about that. We're putting our bread and eggs on layaway.
Their gas, their basic bills. People cannot afford everyday costs of living. And eventually this hole that we are digging as a country with debt is going to catch up to it. And I really think we're starting to see that now. And again, this 1.17 trillion of credit card debt does not even take into consideration mortgages, autos, student loans, everything else.
The debt crisis in this country of America, incredible. The country in itself has a debt crisis. They just treat it like a glory hole and just shove it in there. But at the same time, it's just really insane to think that everybody has, not everybody. Now, this is John Deloney. He's a part of the Dave Ramsey crew. And I'm a big fan of the Ramsey show, although I don't fully agree with all their takes. I myself have now put myself into a small amount of debt, but obviously it's nowhere near what a lot of other people are facing. So I'm very grateful for that. But you really never know what's ahead of you in the near future. So maybe one day I'll fumble into one of these positions, just like some of these other folks. But this guy's going to talk about kind of the concept of debt and how it really affects the average person, let alone like how people feel about it.
Because of that, they're going to take your house, and they're going to take your car, and they're going to take your food because you owe money to everybody. Your brain would be failing you if it let you have peace because you're at war. It's a time of scarcity. For centuries, debt was the way people trapped and captured other people. They enslaved other people.
Think about that. That word enslave. The whole wage slavery concept where you're just in the rat race, they're just keeping you on the wheel, putting the cheese in front of you, and once you get it, you need more and more and more. So it's never really a long, satisfied type of thing, and this debt, man.
You owe us money, and you can't do anything until you get this paid off, and now it's just our
The thing about it is, I really like how he pointed out that if you are in debt, and it's like, oh, well, like, no big deal, let's just let it rack up, who cares what the interest is? They'll take your assets. Now, most people don't even have assets as it is. I'm not sure what they're going to do with these Gen Z folks because they're all racking up insane amounts of credit card debt. And they have no assets to take. So, kind of interesting to think about that.
Why do you have so much debt at 20, dude?
Yeah.
What have you done?
26,000 is on my car. The rest of it is all credit cards. The biggest chunk of it all really started whenever I was out of a job for about 2 months. I was putting all of the rent, all of the food, everything on just credit cards. I had a decent job. My roommate had a kind of shaky job, and then he didn't have a job. For the first few months, he was getting money from like his parents or family or whatever, trying to make his part, but that's not sustainable. So, you know, I had to start picking up.
Not only is it not sustainable, it's a really good way to ruin a lot of ties that you have in your life. Because it's just like, even I've done so myself, like people aren't willing to help you forever. It's not a long run type of thing. And it's pretty ironic. It's super actually scary to think that you and me and most people are only a few months away from digging themselves into a hole that is pretty hard to get themselves back out of.
Half. There was a 2-month period where neither of us had a job, so
And how was that conversation with the roommate when you were taking on all the bills?
we had the same conversation of me just being like, you gotta figure out a way, and then there was no way being figured out. So I
Did you get fired?
Yes. So I was trying to quit. I wanted to quit, but I didn't want to just like leave them because they were short staffed. We had stuff coming up. So I was like, okay, I'll quit in a month or two or something like that. But then like after a couple weeks, they said that my head wasn't in it anymore. So they just quit.
What was the
And they just
job?
fired me. I was a QC at
He
industrial
was ready
piping.
to quit. I wonder if we had the money saved to be able to do so, or if we had another job lined up. Now, obviously, that's not really the point. The point is that he lost the job, he put all the money on credit, and it just, the percentages are probably crazy, and it's just adding up and up and up and up, with no real way for him to pay it back, and with him still having bills coming up, like his rent and having to eat and stuff. And so it's like kind of scary to think everybody's only a few months away, but it is kind of ironic to think that he stayed at a job. I personally did the same thing. I was ready to quit, and then my boss on my last job, they asked me to stay an extra week, and I did so, but it's like, I pretty much just got tossed around because they needed staff. But it's a good thing to do so, and if you really do, if you really do like your employer, it is nice to kind of go back and forth and have some sort of cooperation, help each other out. But most companies will just throw you to the side. And the whole concept of like a 2-week notice, I understand it's really good on your resume, or if your references they want to call back, make sure you look good and all that stuff. But at the same time, like jobs cut you off with no notice at all. So I feel like the respect has to be mutual. So you're not obligated to give them any sort of notice if you don't have to. And if you really feel like you have something going for you where you don't have to really worry about that specific job, I mean, if you've been there for a long time, you probably want to be more, nice about it. But it depends. It depends how you feel.
Type business. So I just like checked the orders and sent them out to the trucks and stuff.
Okay.
I hate
That was
that.
Caleb.
I think
This was Caleb Hammer, by the way. He has you've probably seen him on YouTube. He's huge. He has all these people on, and they're always in debt. But now we're going to go into this guy, Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful from Shark Tank. And apparently he hates debt, but he leverages it because that's how rich people use debt. They leverage it. Let's ponder on that while we listen to him.
hate that. I think debt is evil. Let me qualify that. I have debt on my real estate. I got mortgages on my commercial real estate. I get that. I'm talking about personal
And
debt.
that's the majority of people who are in a lower class range. It's all personal debt because it's how you're scraping by. Versus if you already have money to go, you can kind of leverage the debt, and that's kind of different. Now, if you have some sort of way you can actually leverage the debt where you don't have much to begin with, there are ways to do that. There are ways to build capital if you do it correctly. But even if you're taking on a pretty high amount of risk, and many people aren't willing or necessarily, don't really have it in them, don't really have it in them to make that happen and work successfully.
Okay?
I'm 22 years old and I have about $100,000 worth of debt to my name. About
Think about that. She's
$52,000.
22 years old. Sorry, I shouldn't have paused that while she's doing the breakdown. 22 years old, $100,000 in debt. Now she's gonna explain to you how that's broken up.
$100,000 worth of debt to my name. About $52,000 is towards my car loan, while $24,000 is towards my credit cards, and about $8,000 is towards my student loan. Regarding my
Her
credit card debt,
student loan is the least on her debt level, which is that's actually kind of odd. That's not usually I feel like student loans are the higher percentages of people's breakdown.
I chose debt settlement, so my balance used to be like $40,000, and they took away all interest charges, and now it's only like $24,000. So I am actively trying to avoid bankruptcy right now. I don't want to file for bankruptcy at 22 years old. I know a lot of people are advising me to do this, but I just don't think that's smart if I can actually pay it off. Debt settlement was the best option for me for several reasons. One being it's more private. It isn't on your record the way bankruptcy is. Debt settlement does negatively
so
affect.
she's going to go on about how she's trying to solve her debt, and she doesn't really say much about it. She's just saying she did the whole debt settlement. This is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just a guy who's on the internet, talks about problems I find serious, and discussions I think should be had more often. Now, if you do relate to anything in this video, if you're in a boatload of debt yourself, if you know people who are, if you have scraped through and have done the Ramsey plan per se, or whatever plan you did, figure out, and you got out of debt or a big mass amount of debt, feel free to leave your tips down below in the comments. I'm sure many people can get knowledge from those type of tips. And yeah, I personally have kind of sprung myself, catapulted myself into a small amount of debt, a few $1,000s, broken up into something, I owe for my taxes, I owe a couple of stupid loans that I just needed to get by. And I've never done the credit cards, but honestly, the loans are probably worse. But they're only a few $100s, so those will be paid in about a month. But I understand the debt thing. I was against debt for the majority of my life, and now that I'm in my adult years, I'm currently 25. It's hard to escape it, especially in America where it's so accessible and they push you debt constantly. They're begging you to hop into college before you even graduate high school. It's like you need to go to college. You're a loser. It's pretty much how they make it seem. So it's like a shameful thing to not just hop right into a bunch of debt that you don't really understand. And even with credit cards, as soon as you turn a certain age, they'll send you them in the mail constantly. So you're always just fighting the demon. And a lot of people who need money, they fall into these type of traps. Are they traps? Not for everybody. Some people use them to spring ahead, like we mentioned before. But for a lot of folks, it's just a very bad slope that doesn't end well and just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. It's like a snowball that just keeps, piling up. But if you can do it the other way and pay off the debt, and you can, try to bunker down, and that's why it's kind of they say it's an enslaved thing. They say debt enslaves you, and I see, just like Dave Ramsey says, something about you're out if you owe somebody debt, then they're your master. Whatever. He has a whole analogy. I'm not a huge fan, but I'm a big fan. Either way, if I do appreciate all your guys' love and support around here on the videos. I do plan to continue cranking these videos out as much as I possibly can. Again, I want to have a huge exclusive shout out to people over there on my Patreon who support me personally. That is a super huge help for me, myself, and I, and this channel because we're just starting around here. As you can tell, there's not really much going on around here. I don't really have the best setup. I don't have the best quality stuff. I'm just like all you, and just talking about discussions I think are important and need to be talked about more. And I like to create discussion around these types of things. Possibly, hopefully, eventually in the near future, build some sort of a community. We are so close to 4,000 subscribers. I hope I might hit overnight tonight. I'm not too sure yet. But yeah, I'm super appreciative. I'm super grateful for our guys' support. And I plan to continue these videos every single day, if not, more so or somewhere around then. But yeah, again, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next one.